The city of Zephyra shimmered in the soft glow of dawn, the crystalline plains reflecting the rising twin suns in dazzling patterns of color. Ethan Hale stood atop the palace terrace, his eyes tracing the horizon. It had been weeks since the Yao Krivath invasion had been repelled, but the memory of battle lingered in every corner of the city. The charred remains of fallen ships, the faint scars etched into the landscape. Yet amidst the devastation, a sense of hope had begun to take root. Beside him stood Princess Solara. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed softly, reflecting calm determination. The weight of her people's expectations rested lightly on her shoulders now, but she carried it with grace. She had survived challenges both external and internal, and she had chosen to embrace change rather than fear it. "Ethan," she said, quietly, her voice carrying the same gentle strength that had first drawn him to her. "Today we take the next step, not just for Zephyra, but for all of our people." Ethan nodded. "I'm ready, whatever it takes." Their plan was ambitious, a public demonstration of unity between humans and Lyrai. It was not enough to repel the Krivath. Solara needed to show her people that embracing human ingenuity and emotion could strengthen, rather than weaken, their culture. The palace grounds were filled with citizens, soldiers, and advisors, each curious and cautious. Whispers of excitement and doubt rippled through the crowd. Solara stepped forward onto the central dais, the bioluminescent patterns along her arms and chest glowing brightly. Ethan followed, standing slightly to the side, his human presence a visible symbol of alliance. "People of Zephyra," Solara began, her voice resonant and confident. "We have faced a threat greater than many of us believed possible. The Krivath came to test our strength. We survived. We fought with courage, intelligence, and unity, and now we face a new challenge, not of weapons but of ideas." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some elders exchanged skeptical glances, while younger citizens leaned forward, curious. Solara continued, her gaze sweeping the assembled Lyrai. "For centuries we have suppressed emotions, believing that reason alone could guide our people. But courage, compassion, and trust are not weaknesses. They are strengths, and sometimes wisdom comes from unexpected places." She turned toward Ethan, who nodded subtly. "Humans act with courage and emotion, yet they also bring ingenuity and strategy. Together we have demonstrated that when our strengths combine, we can overcome any threat, not because we are flawless, but because we are willing to adapt, to trust, and to act together." A wave of quiet reflection swept through the audience. The elders' eyes softened, some of the younger advisors whispered to one another, and soldiers straightened with renewed pride. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady. "People of Zephyra, the human who stands beside Princess Solara is not a conqueror, not a ruler, but an ally. I have learned from your people's wisdom, fought alongside your soldiers, and witnessed the courage that lives in every one of you. Together we are stronger than fear, stronger than isolation, and stronger than any enemy." For the first time the crowd erupted, not in chaos but in unified cheer. It was a sound of acceptance, of hope, and of new possibilities. Over the following days, Solara and Ethan worked tirelessly to implement reforms. They introduced cultural exchanges, where humans and Lyrai could learn from each other, combining technological innovation with disciplined energy control. Markets and schools opened their doors to new ideas, and training programs integrated human adaptability with Lyrai precision. Ethan found himself teaching, not as an instructor, but as a bridge between worlds. Children learned human storytelling, alongside Lyrai history. Soldiers practiced hybrid combat techniques that combined unpredictability with strategic discipline. Artists explored new forms of expression, inspired by human creativity and Lyrai bioluminescence. Through it all, Ethan and Solara grew closer, their bond strengthened not only by affection but by mutual respect. They shared quiet moments on the terrace, observing the city's glow at night, discussing strategy, or simply enjoying the rare calm after weeks of chaos. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the crystalline plains, Ethan spoke softly. "Solara, I never thought a single mistake could lead to this. I never imagined I'd be here helping change an entire civilization. Solara's patterns pulsed warmly. Sometimes the wrong words in the right moment create the greatest change. You acted with honesty, courage, and emotion, the very qualities my people needed to see. You have done more than survive, Ethan. You have helped us grow. He looked at her, admiration and affection filling his chest. And I've learned more than I could have ever imagined. From you, from your people. I feel like I belong here. Solara reached out, her hand glowing faintly as she brushed his. You do belong. You are part of our future, as we are part of yours. Together we will continue to guide, protect, and inspire. The Krivath threat had not vanished entirely, but with Zephyra united and strengthened, their return would be met with preparation, strategy, and courage. More importantly, the bond between humans and Lyrae ensured that Zephyra would no longer be isolated or predictable. Months passed, and the city thrived. Trade flourished, education and culture expanded, and the palace became a symbol of unity, rather than hierarchy. Citizens walked freely through the glowing streets, witnessing the harmonious blend of tradition and innovation. Human advisors contributed ideas alongside Lyrae elders, and for the first time, both species truly learned from each other. One morning, Ethan stood with Solara on the palace terrace, watching the sun rise over the crystalline plains. The city, below, buzzed with life, laughter, and creativity, a testament to the power of collaboration. You've changed so much, Ethan said softly. And you, Solara replied, her patterns glowing brighter. You have changed more than you know. You have shown my people that emotion, courage, and creativity are not weaknesses. They are strengths. You have inspired a new era. Ethan smiled. Then let's keep building it. Together. Solara nodded, her expression serene but determined. Together. Always. As the twin suns rose higher, casting their golden light over Zephyra, the city sparkled like a living jewel. The story of the human who accidentally said, "I love you," and the alien princess who whispered at last, had transformed into a story of unity, courage, and hope. A story that would be told for generations. Ethan and Solara stood side by side, watching their people, their city, and their world flourish. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and tradition, and they had triumphed. Not through power alone, but through trust, understanding, and the unshakable bond between human and alien. And as the planet basked in light, a new era dawned, one of possibility, partnership, and the knowledge that even the smallest words, spoken in honesty and courage, could change the course of history. Zephyra was no longer just a planet. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when different worlds, hearts, and minds worked together. And Ethan, once a simple human envoy, had become part of that symbol. A living reminder that courage, love, and unpredictability could light the way for generations to come. The twin suns and moons cast their glow over the city, a gentle, eternal reminder that the story of Zephyra and the human who dared to speak his heart had only just begun. The galaxy had grown restless. News of the daring escape from the Star Citadel had spread quickly through trade routes and communication channels. Whispers of a human soldier and an alien princess defying the might of the Zelthari Empire traveled, faster than any fleet could. For Elias Kane and Princess Lyra, the news brought both hope and danger. Hope because some systems might rally to their cause. Danger because the Zelthari would stop at nothing to recapture her and reclaim their pride. Their temporary refuge on the neutral planet of Varela was quiet but tense. The terrain was jagged, filled with caves and hidden valleys, ideal for hiding from the Empire's patrols. Elias had set up a small base using salvage technology and stealth defenses. Lyra had taken charge of coordinating intelligence, reaching out discreetly to human and alien allies who opposed the Empire. Reports indicate that several systems are willing to help, Lyra said one evening, her violet eyes reflecting the flickering lights of the base. They've seen what the Empire is capable of and they fear it. Your reputation as a human soldier precedes you. Elias leaned back, arms crossed, considering her words. Good. But allies can be unpredictable. Some may fight alongside us, others may hesitate or betray us if the situation gets too dangerous. We need to be ready for anything. Lyra nodded. I understand. But together, we can inspire loyalty. Humans, you have a way of rallying people. And my people know that courage is worth following. Elias smiled faintly. Then let's show them what humans and Zelthari working together can do. Over the next weeks, they coordinated with various neutral systems, recruiting ships, soldiers, and engineers. Elias trained the volunteers in human tactics, quick thinking, adaptability, and teamwork, while Lyra shared her knowledge of Zelthari technology and strategy. The combination was unprecedented, humans and aliens working side by side, learning from one another, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation with the Empire. One evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, Lyra spoke softly to Elias. Do you ever wonder if we can truly succeed against them? The Empire is vast and powerful. Elias looked at her steadily. I don't worry about odds. I focus on what we can do, right here, right now. Courage isn't about believing you'll win. It's about standing up and fighting, even when winning seems impossible. Lyra considered his words. Humans had a strength she had never truly appreciated, a combination of intellect, determination, and fearlessness. With Elias by her side, she felt that even the impossible might be within reach. The first major engagement came sooner than expected. A fleet of Zelthari warships moved to reclaim the Star Citadel, unaware that it had already been temporarily neutralized by Lyra's earlier sabotage. Elias and Lyra had prepared an ambush, a small but agile human-led fleet, augmented with allies from the neutral systems, lay hidden in the asteroid belt near the Citadel. Remember, Elias said to the assembled captains, we are outnumbered. We don't have their firepower, but we have strategy, creativity, and courage. Use them wisely, Lyra added, and watch each other's backs. Trust in your team. That is how we survive. The battle began with a sudden flurry of activity. Zelthari ships advanced expecting easy victory. Instead, they were met with coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Human pilots darted between asteroids, firing precise shots and dodging incoming fire, while Lyra guided ally ships to exploit weak points in the enemy formation. Elias led a squadron directly toward the Citadel, bypassing main defenses using narrow corridors he had memorized from earlier recon. Drones and automated turrets attempted to intercept them, but human ingenuity proved superior. Quick maneuvers, improvisation, and coordinated attacks allowed Elias's squadron to disable key weapons and communications arrays. Lyra, coordinating from the command center of their flagship, directed additional forces. Focus on the shield. Generators. If we bring those down, the fleet becomes vulnerable. Her instructions were precise, her knowledge of the Empire's technology giving their forces a critical advantage. The Zelthari were relentless, but the combined strength of humans and their allies was astonishing. They adapted to every attack, predicted enemy maneuvers, and countered with clever strategies that the Empire had never faced. Each success inspired the smaller fleets, boosting morale and strengthening loyalty. Amid the chaos, Elias noticed a squadron attempting to flank their position. Lyra, they're trying to cut us off, he shouted. Lyra responded instantly. Redirect the left flank, use the asteroid cover. I'll guide you through their blind spots. With precise timing, Elias maneuvered his ships, slipping behind the enemy squadron. A combination of human skill and Lyra's knowledge of Zelthari technology allowed them to disable the flanking ships without losing a single vessel. It was a display of teamwork that left even some veteran captains awestruck. Hours passed in a blur of combat. Explosions lit the void, and the stars seemed to tremble under the barrage of fire. Yet through it all, Elias and Lyra moved with calm, efficiency, coordinating their forces, protecting their allies, and ensuring no one was left behind. Finally, the tide turned. The Zelthari fleet, unprepared for such coordination and ingenuity, began to retreat. The Star Citadel, once a symbol of invincibility, now stood vulnerable, its defenses crippled by the combined human and alien forces. Elias exhaled, allowing himself a rare moment of relief. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes bright with pride and determination. "We did it," she said softly. "Against all odds." Elias shook his head. "Not just us. Everyone here. Humans, Zeltari allies, other species. We all did it together. This is what courage and teamwork can achieve." Lyra smiled, understanding the truth in his words. She realized that this victory was more than a battle won. It was proof that humans could inspire loyalty, that courage and intelligence could defy even the most powerful enemies. In the days that followed, Elias and Lyra worked tirelessly to solidify their new alliance. The systems that had contributed, ships and personnel pledged continued support, inspired by the human-led strategies that had turned the battle. Lyra reached out to Zeltari factions opposed to the Empire, fostering diplomacy and encouraging them to stand with humanity. Elias trained volunteers, sharing lessons in human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. He emphasized that survival was not just about weapons or strength, it was about teamwork, quick thinking, and trust. The Zeltari, initially skeptical of humans, began to see their value in a new light. One evening, as they stood together on the observation deck of their flagship, Lyra spoke quietly. "I never thought I would find a bond like this with a human. You have proven that courage is not limited to size, strength, or species. Humans, you are extraordinary." Elias smiled faintly, looking at the stars. "And you, Lyra, have proven that courage and knowledge can inspire others regardless of culture or tradition. Together, we make each other stronger." Lyra nodded, feeling a deep sense of trust and respect. She had left her home and her world behind, but she had found something far greater, a partnership built on mutual respect, courage, and shared purpose. The galaxy was no longer silent. News of their victory and the alliance they had forged spread across systems. Humans, long underestimated by many alien civilizations, were now seen as leaders, strategists, and courageous allies. Lyra's people and others who had doubted human potential began to recognize the power of intellect, creativity, and determination. Elias and Lyra prepared for the next phase of their mission, to protect the galaxy from further aggression and to ensure that no one would ever be enslaved or oppressed under the Zeltari Empire's expansion. Their fleet, though smaller than the Empire's, was united, disciplined, and inspired, ready to face any challenge with courage and ingenuity. In the quiet moments between missions, Lyra reflected on everything that had happened. She had been imprisoned, betrayed, and forced to flee her home. But in the process, she had discovered the extraordinary courage of humans, the strength that came from teamwork, and the bond that could form between different species when trust and respect were present. Elias, meanwhile, considered the journey from his own perspective. Humans had always survived, often against impossible odds, relying on courage, adaptability, and ingenuity. Now, with Lyra at his side and allies across the galaxy, he saw the true potential of what humans could achieve. Together, they had not only survived, they had inspired a new era of cooperation, courage, and hope. The Star Citadel had fallen, but more importantly, a symbol of unity had risen. A human soldier and an alien princess standing together, showing the galaxy that even the greatest powers could be challenged by intelligence, bravery, and trust. As the flagship sailed through the starlit void, Lyra and Elias stood side by side, looking toward the distant systems they had yet to explore, allies waiting and challenges ahead. They knew that the journey was far from over, but for the first time, they felt truly unstoppable. Humans were more than capable. Lyra was no longer a prisoner. Together, they would continue to inspire hope, forge alliances, and face any threat that the galaxy dared to send their way. And in that vast, endless universe, one undeniable truth shone brighter than any star. Courage, intelligence, and trust could change everything. Elias Kane and Princess Lyra, soldier and princess, human and Zelthari, were living proof. The morning sun shimmered over Zephyr's crystal plains, casting long, colorful beams across the palace's floating terraces. Ethan Hale had never seen anything like it. The planet seemed alive, its sky swirling with iridescent clouds, and the soft hum of energy from the city below felt almost musical. Yet despite the beauty, Ethan's thoughts kept returning to last night's banquet, the moment he had accidentally confessed his love to Princess Solara. The memory made his stomach twist, half from embarrassment, half from curiosity. He wasn't alone for long. A soft glow approached him along the terrace, and there she was. Princess Solara, her long hair catching the light, skin patterns pulsing gently like a heartbeat. She walked toward him with the same calm confidence he had noticed the night before, but now there was something softer, more personal in her gaze. "Good morning, Ethan," she said, her voice warm, melodic, yet carrying authority. "Are you prepared for the day's training?" Ethan blinked. Training? He had expected formal meetings, protocol reviews, perhaps strategy sessions, not training. And yet, he found himself nodding. I think so," he admitted, trying to steady his voice. Solara tilted her head slightly, her glowing patterns brightening. "Think is not enough. You must be prepared if you are to walk among my people, and if you are to protect Zephyra when danger comes. You have shown courage with your words, but courage alone does not teach skill." He swallowed nervously. "Right. Skill. Of course." She extended her hand, an invitation more than a command, and he followed her into the palace's training halls. The halls were vast, with polished floors that reflected every movement, and walls that responded to the presence of energy, glowing softly as they approached. Several Lyrai instructors were already present, waiting to see the human who had broken centuries of emotional restraint with a single phrase. "You will learn our ways," Solara explained as they walked. "Balance, control, strategies, and emotion. You humans are unpredictable, and that can be dangerous or powerful. I want to show you how to make it powerful." Ethan nodded, trying to hide his nervousness. He had trained for zero-gravity maneuvers, alien combat protocols, and even emergency diplomacy, but learning to control or harness emotional energy in a bioluminescent alien culture was entirely new. The first exercise was deceptively simple: balance and control. The instructors handed him a small orb of energy that floated slightly above his palm. "Feel it," one said. "Do not try to control it. Let it respond to your intent." Ethan stared at the glowing orb. It pulsed, almost like it had a heartbeat. When he tried to focus, it wobbled, spinning out of control. He flinched. Solara stepped closer. "Relax. Your fear is loud. It disrupts the orb's resonance. Clear your mind, Ethan. Your intent must flow naturally, not forcefully." He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He tried to calm himself, imagining the hum of the planet outside the palace, imagining that the orb was not a test, but a partner. Slowly the orb stabilized, floating calmly above his hand. A small smile crept onto his face. "Good," Solara said, her eyes glowing softly. "See? Humans can learn quickly when they are not afraid of their own emotions." For hours they trained. Ethan learned to anticipate the movement of energy fields, to read subtle cues in Solara's glowing skin patterns, and even to use his own human unpredictability as a strategic advantage. He stumbled many times, falling to the ground or losing focus, but Solara never chastised him. Instead, she guided, corrected, and sometimes simply watched, letting him learn from mistakes. During a short break, Ethan caught his breath in the sunlit terrace. He watched the city below, its buildings glowing softly in the morning light, and realized how different this world was from Earth. Yet somehow, it felt like the first place where he belonged. "Do you ever get tired of training?" he asked cautiously. "It seems endless." Solara laughed softly, a musical sound that seemed to harmonize with the hum of the planet. "No," she said. "Even I must learn. Leadership is not a single skill. It is a combination of many. discipline, strategy, patience, and trust. Trust in your allies and trust in yourself. You will understand this soon. Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of awe and intimidation. He had always been good at strategy and improvisation, but he had never considered that trust and emotional understanding could be just as critical as skill or intelligence. Later that afternoon, they walked together along the palace corridors, discussing politics, trade, and the growing threat of the Kryvath Empire. Ethan had read the reports, but seeing the urgency in Solara's calm, glowing eyes made the danger real. The Kryvath were not only aggressive, they were cunning and ruthless, with technology that could easily overwhelm Zephyra if left unchecked. "We need to prepare," Solara said quietly, her gaze distant. "The Kryvath will come sooner or later. They underestimate the Lyrae, and perhaps humans too, but together, we can turn their underestimation into their downfall." Ethan nodded. "Then we'll be ready. Somehow. Together." Solara looked at him, her expression unreadable at first. Then slowly she allowed a faint smile. "Together," she repeated, as if testing the sound of the word on her tongue. That evening, as the twin moons of Zephyra rose, Ethan found himself on the palace terrace again, reflecting on the day. The training had been exhausting, but invigorating. He felt a strange bond forming with Solara, not just as a diplomat or trainee, but as someone who had broken the barriers of culture and expectation with him. He realized that humans' greatest strength was not just in technology or combat, but in the courage to express themselves, to act despite fear, and to embrace uncertainty. He didn't know how Solara felt exactly, but the way she had whispered, "At last," the night before stayed in his mind. He wondered what she had endured, what centuries of restraint felt like, and how powerful that freedom must be for her. Somehow he had given her that in a single moment, and it made him feel both guilty and proud. Days passed in a rhythm of training, strategy sessions, and quiet moments of observation. Ethan began to notice subtle shifts in the Lyrae court's behavior toward him. The nobles who had seemed cold or distant now regarded him with curiosity, perhaps even respect. He realized that his human unpredictability, once feared, was becoming an asset. Solara was always present, guiding him, pushing him, but also allowing space for his own instincts to grow. One afternoon, as they practiced maneuvers that combined combat with energy manipulation, Ethan made a mistake that sent a glowing orb crashing against the wall. "I'm sorry," he exclaimed. Solara merely shook her head, her glow brightening, in amusement. "Mistakes are not failure, Ethan. They are lessons, and lessons are how we grow." He realized then that she was teaching more than combat or energy control. She was teaching him to embrace uncertainty, to trust himself, and to recognize the value of human instincts even in a world that prized control above all else. By the end of the week, Ethan was exhausted but exhilarated. He had learned more in days than he had in years of training on Earth. And though he would never admit it aloud, he looked forward to each new challenge, each new lesson, because it meant more time with Solara, more moments of understanding, and more chances to prove that humans could rise to meet the unknown in ways no one had expected. One evening, as they watched the sun set over the crystalline plains, Solara spoke quietly. "Ethan, the Kryvath will not wait for us to be ready. But I believe, together we can face them, and perhaps together we can change more than just the outcome of a battle. Perhaps we can change the course of history for my people." Ethan looked at her, the glowing patterns of her skin reflecting in his eyes. He realized that he had accidentally spoken words the night before, but now he had a choice. He could step forward, embrace the bond forming between them, and become part of something far greater than himself. He nodded slowly. "Then we face them together, and we make history." Solara smiled, a true, gentle smile that lit her features with warmth and determination. "Together," she said again, the word now carrying weight, promise, and a hint of joy. And as the twin moons rose high over Zephyra, casting silver light across the crystalline plains, Ethan felt for the first time that he truly belonged, not just as a human diplomat, but as an ally. a fighter, and perhaps something more. To the luminous princess who had waited centuries for words he had only accidentally spoken. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with danger, strategy, and the threat of the Krivath Empire. But Ethan knew that he and Solara were stronger together. And for the first time, he felt a flicker of hope that humans and Lyrae, together, could accomplish the impossible. Reflecting the light like a field of stars, Ethan Hale stood on the balcony of the palace, scanning the horizon. He had trained, learned, and adapted to the ways of the Lyrae, but nothing could prepare him for the sight of the Krivath fleet entering. Zephyra's atmosphere. Hundreds of sleek dark ships moved in formation, cutting through the sky like a shadow over the glowing world. The Krivath Empire was known for its ruthless efficiency, and now their presence was undeniable. Ethan felt a surge of tension, but beneath it was a strange, steady confidence. He had trained with Solara, learned her people's techniques, and discovered a new strength in himself, one that relied on unpredictability and emotion, traits the Krivath could not anticipate. Solara appeared beside him, her luminous skin glowing more intensely than usual. "They are here," she said softly, her eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. "We cannot let them reach the city. Every life, every structure, everything depends on our response." Ethan nodded, his mind already racing. "Then let's stop them," he said firmly. The palace's central command hall was alive with activity. Lyrae strategists hovered above holographic maps, their hands tracing the movement of both Zephyra's defenses and the Krivath ships. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped forward. "If I may," he began, his voice calm but resolute, "we can create a diversion to split their forces. The Krivath rely on predictable patterns. We introduce unpredictability. It will force them to react, giving us an advantage." Solara's eyes flickered, and she smiled slightly. "A human plan," she said, almost in admiration. "Very well. We will try your method." They moved quickly, issuing orders and coordinating with the defense squads. Ethan and Solara led a small strike team, combining human ingenuity and Lyrae power. Energy fields shimmered along their path as they moved toward the main defensive platform. Ethan's heart pounded with adrenaline and excitement. He had fought simulated battles before, but now the stakes were real, and every decision mattered. The first wave of Krivath fighters approached. Sleek, black ships fired pulses of energy that could tear through conventional shields. Solara and her team countered with bioluminescent energy bursts, deflecting the attacks and creating shields to protect the palace. Ethan noticed the Krivath pilots were careful, trying to predict their moves, but that was exactly where he intended to exploit their caution. "Split into 2 groups," he ordered. "Half of us draw them to the northern ridge, the rest will flank from the east." Solara raised an eyebrow, then nodded. "Your strategy. Humans think in strange ways." She moved beside him, her hands glowing as she manipulated energy fields, guiding them with precision. The Krivath split as predicted. Ethan led his small group through the northern ridge, using terrain and energy bursts to confuse the enemy. The ships faltered, unsure of where the next attack would come. Ethan's human unpredictability was now a weapon, turning the tide in small but critical ways. Meanwhile, Solara and the Eastern group executed a synchronized attack, using glowing energy barriers to trap Krivath fighters in narrow corridors. She moved with elegance and precision, demonstrating why she was heir to the throne. Her presence inspired the Lyrae soldiers, giving them courage and focus even in the face of overwhelming numbers. Ethan felt a rush of admiration. Not only was she powerful, but she understood the human unpredictability he brought to the fight. Together they were a combination of strategy and raw instinct, something the Krivath had never faced. As the battle intensified, Ethan noticed a large Krivath command ship approaching the palace directly. Its energy pulse was stronger, capable of penetrating the main shield. He turned to Solara. "That ship, if it reaches the palace, everything is lost. We have to stop it." Solara's eyes glowed brighter. "Agreed. But the shields alone cannot withstand that. We must combine our forces. Without hesitation, they moved toward the palace's central energy hub, where the main defensive arrays could be augmented. Ethan worked quickly, rerouting energy and creating temporary channels that amplified the Lyray's bioluminescent shields. Solara synchronized with him, her patterns flowing in harmony with his improvisation. Together they became a single force, human, intuition merging with alien precision. The Kryvath command ship fired, but their combined defenses held. Ethan took a calculated risk, launching a concentrated burst of energy directly at the ship's weak point. It hit with devastating force, sending the ship spiraling away in flames. The Kryvath fleet faltered. Confused by the unexpected tactics, their formation broke and the Lyrae and human defenders pressed the advantage. Wave after wave of attacks were repelled. Ethan moved through the battlefield with agility and focus, coordinating soldiers, deflecting attacks, and even taking point when necessary. Solara fought beside him, her glowing energy cutting through the darkness of the Kryvath ships. Her skills were breathtaking, but she never overshadowed him. Instead, she relied on his improvisation to fill gaps in their strategy, showing that trust and teamwork were as important as skill. Hours passed like minutes. Slowly, the Kryvath retreated, their fleet diminished, and morale shattered. Zephyra's defenders cheered, though the victory was tempered by the knowledge that this was only the first battle. The Kryvath would return, stronger and more determined. Ethan and Solara stood together atop a ridge overlooking the city. The sky was filled with the glow of energy fields and burning ships, but the palace and its people had survived. "You were incredible," Ethan said, panting but exhilarated. "I never thought we could actually pull this off." Solara turned to him, her glowing patterns pulsing gently. "You were incredible too. Your human unpredictability. It saved lives. Today, I had hoped that humans could help us, but I had never imagined they could change the course of a battle with nothing but creativity and courage." Ethan smiled, feeling a mix of pride and relief. I just did what I could. But we did it, together." Solara nodded, her gaze softening. "Together," she echoed. The word carried weight now, forged in fire and energy, in the crucible of battle. As the night settled over Zephyra, Ethan realized that this planet, its people, and Solara herself had become more than a mission. They were now part of him, just as he was becoming part of them. The bond formed in the accidental confession had grown stronger in the heat of combat, proving that human emotion and instinct could complement alien precision in ways no one had expected. Yet even as they celebrated the victory, both knew the war was far from over. The Kryvath Empire was relentless, and Zephyra would face greater challenges ahead. But for the first time, Ethan felt confident. Not because he was human, not because Solara was Lyrae, but because together they were a force that neither technology, training, nor centuries of discipline alone could match. And somewhere in the quiet of the crystalline plains, Ethan thought he heard the faint echo of Solara's words from the first night. At last. This time he understood them fully. Not a whisper of relief, but a promise. A promise that together, human and Lyrae could face the darkness and shine brighter than any force that threatened them. The aftermath of the battle left Zephyra both victorious and shaken. The crystalline plains glimmered with energy scars where Kryvath ships had fallen, and the skies remained streaked with smoke and glowing debris. Ethan Hale walked beside Princess Solara through the streets of the city, observing the people who had survived because of their combined effort. Children waved at them with curiosity, and elders nodded respectfully. Every glance reminded Ethan of how much was at stake, not only their lives but the future of an entire civilization. Solara remained quiet, her glowing patterns pulsing slowly as if reflecting her thoughts. Finally, she spoke. "Ethan, there is something you must understand about my people, and about why your words that night mattered more than you realize." Ethan turned to her, sensing the weight of her tone. "What is it?" he asked. She gestured for him to follow her into the palace, moving through corridors that shimmered softly as if alive. They entered a private chamber, where the walls displayed historical scenes through subtle bioluminescent projections. Here, Solara's expression softened. The Lyrae have long traditions, many of which humans cannot comprehend, she began. We are trained from birth to suppress certain emotions, fear, love, desire, so that logic and reason guide our actions above all else. This has ensured our survival for centuries, but it has also left us incomplete. Many of us long for feelings we cannot openly express, even in private. I have waited for someone to break that barrier. Ethan listened, astonished. He had thought his accidental confession was a simple mistake, but now he understood its significance. You were waiting for someone to say what I said? He asked, disbelief in his voice. Solara nodded. Yes. Humans. You speak emotions freely. You express without fear. That is why your words were powerful. When you said, "I love you," it was not a command or a distraction, it was an act of courage. It unlocked something in me that centuries of tradition could not. Ethan's mind raced. He had never imagined that a simple phrase could carry such weight. I didn't know, he admitted quietly. I thought it was a mistake. Sometimes, the wrong words at the right time are the most meaningful, Solara said. She moved closer, her patterns glowing softly. Ethan, I have seen many humans, studied many interactions, but none have touched me the way your words did. It is not only personal, it is symbolic. Ethan's curiosity grew. Symbolic? How? Solara took a deep breath. Among the Lyrae, a prophecy exists. It speaks of a human catalyst, someone from another world who will help lead my people into a new era, breaking the chains of emotional suppression while preserving the wisdom of our traditions. That catalyst may be you. Ethan blinked, stunned. Me? Yes, Solara said firmly, her gaze unwavering. You are unpredictable, courageous, and capable of inspiring change. Your presence here is not coincidence. Your words, your actions, your willingness to embrace what others fear, all of it, aligns with the prophecy. Ethan struggled to find words. He had trained for diplomacy, for combat, for negotiations, but prophecy? He had never considered himself significant beyond being a human envoy. And yet, hearing Solara's certainty, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. I don't know if I'm ready for that, he admitted. I wanted to do my duty, to help. Solara smiled gently, a glow of reassurance in her eyes. Duty alone is not enough. The prophecy is not about destiny in the sense of fate forcing your hand. It is about choice. You have already chosen, Ethan. Every decision, every risk, every act of courage has brought you here. You are ready in ways you may not yet realize. Ethan absorbed her words, feeling both overwhelmed and honored. He realized that his accidental confession had started something far larger than either of them had imagined, a bond that could reshape the destiny of Zephyra itself. As they walked through the palace gardens, Solara continued. There are factions within my court who oppose change. They fear human influence, believe that allowing emotions to guide decisions will weaken our people. They see me as compromising tradition by listening to you, by considering your perspectives. You must understand this if we are to move forward. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we face them together, he said, the resolve in his voice stronger than ever. I won't let them, or anyone, stand in the way of what's right. Solara glanced at him, her glowing patterns shifting with subtle warmth. I am glad you understand, but persuasion is not always easy. Logic alone will not sway them. We will need proof, demonstration, and patience. You must show them that human unpredictability and Lyrae discipline can coexist, even strengthen each other. Ethan thought of the recent battle. The combination of human improvisation and Lyrae precision had saved Zephyra. Perhaps that was the proof they needed. Then we show them, he said simply. We show them together. The following days were tense. Ethan attended council meetings, sitting alongside Solara as she addressed her advisors. He listened to arguments steeped in tradition, saw the fear in those unwilling to accept change, and quietly strategized ways to demonstrate the value of human perspective. One evening, as the city's glow reflected in the crystal plains, Solara confided in him further. "Ethan, there is something more you should know. The prophecy does not merely speak of change, it speaks of protection. Someone must defend Zephyrah not only from external threats but from stagnation within. The Kryvath are a danger, yes, but resistance to new ideas can be just as deadly." Ethan felt a chill. He had been prepared for battle, but the fight for hearts and minds, especially among a culture so proud and disciplined, was another kind of war. "Then we fight on both fronts," he said, determination rising within him. Solara's patterns brightened, almost like a smile. "Yes, and you will not face it alone. We will act together, blending the strengths of our people. Humans bring courage, adaptability, and emotion. The Lyrae bring wisdom, discipline, and tradition. Together, we are stronger than either force, alone." As they trained in the palace's combat halls that night, Ethan felt the truth of her words. Every move, every strategy, every exchange of glowing energy between them reinforced their bond. They were not merely teacher and student, or diplomat and princess, they were partners, and their partnership was now the symbol of a potential future for Zephyrah. In the council chamber the next day, Solara addressed her people. She spoke of courage, unity, and the lessons learned from the recent battle. Ethan stood by her side, offering insights from a human perspective. Slowly, the council began to respond, not all at once, but incrementally, acknowledging that change, though frightening, could bring strength. Ethan realized that the prophecy's truth was not mystical, but practical. By acting with courage, compassion, and intelligence, he could inspire even the most rigid hearts. The power of human expression, spoken words, shared emotion, and unpredictable creativity was a force the Lyrae had never fully embraced. That night, under Zephyrah's twin moons, Ethan and Solara stood on a terrace overlooking the city. The battle scars glowed faintly in the moonlight, reminders of their recent victory but also of the challenges yet to come. "You have done more than survive, Ethan," Solara said softly. "You have begun a change that will last generations, and for that I am grateful." Ethan felt a swell of emotion. "I never imagined I could do this, but being here with you, learning from you, it makes me feel like I finally belong somewhere." Solara reached out, her hand glowing faintly as she brushed his. "You belong, Ethan, and together we will continue to protect and guide my people. Not just with strength, but with understanding, courage, and heart." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had known. The bond formed through accident, battle, and trust had become a guiding force. And though the Kryvath Empire remained a looming threat, and resistance within Zephyrah persisted, he knew they could face it all. Because now he and Solara were no longer simply human and alien. They were a team. They were a promise. And they were ready to reveal their true strength to a world that had waited too long for change. The twin moons rose high above the crystalline plains, casting silver light over Zephyrah. And in that quiet, luminous moment, Ethan understood the truth of Solara's first whispered words. At last. Not just relief, not just fulfillment, but the beginning of something far greater than either of them could have imagined. And the story of Zephyrah and of the human who had accidentally said, "I love you," was only beginning.